Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. Now I have started a new series where I'm looking at my top 15, 20, 25, 30 albums of each year from 1965 probably up to about 1989, and the first one I did a couple of weeks ago was 1965, but I decided not to do them in chronological order. I'll actually let you decide which ones I'm going to do. I'm going to pick 3 random ones, put them on my community tab, and you can vote. Now this time it was my top 20 of 1975, or my top 30 of 1981, or my top 15 of 1988, and the majority, 48%, went for 1975, so that's what I'll do. And then I'll put up another one for the next 3. Now 1975 was a pretty damn good year for albums. I could have done a top 30 quite easily, so I've decided just to do top 20. But I'll mention 3 bubbling unders, and they were Wings, Venus and Mars, which is a pretty good album. Roy Wood's Boulders with the brilliant Look Through the Eyes of a Fool on it, which I think is magnificent. And Ian Hunter's debut album after he left Mott the Hoople with Who Do You Love and Once Bitten Twice Shy, and I get so excited, another really good album. But here is my top 20. Now with all these sort of rankings, it's just my personal choice. Some of my albums you may think are too low on this list, some you may think are too high, and some you may wonder where the heck they are altogether. But I think there's a good range of music in here, and I love all these albums, all 20 of them. But my number 20, and it is Rock of the Westies from Elton John. Now this is his rock album. Came after Captain Fantastic, and it was a bit of a departure from his previous 2 albums, even though some of those did have rock songs on it. This was mainly rock with 1 ballad, I Feel Like a Bullet in the Gun of Robert Ford, which is excellent. But I love the opener of this, the medley, the Yell Help, Wednesday Night and Ugly, I think is great. And Dan Dare, Pilot of the Future, is great. Island Girl's not a fantastic single, but it's okay, and I do like Grow Some Funk of Your Own. Side 2 is a little bit harder to get into, but once you do get into it, it's really good. Like Hard Luck Story, I think is excellent, and I think Kiki D did a version of that as well. Billy Bones and the White Bird is a very difficult one to get into, but it rewards in the end. It's a very good album, and it gets my number 20. Okay, number 19, and it is the Kinks' Schoolboys in Disgrace, and it's the last of their RCA concept albums, and this is a pretty good album as well. My favourite track off this is The Hard Way, which has got a real mod sound to it, and I remember them playing it live whenever I saw them in 1981. But you get things like Jack the Idiot Dance and the very sort of doo-woppy The First Time We Fall in Love, I think is great. School Days is a good song. The Last Assembly is a beautiful little song, as is No More Turning Back. I'm in Disgrace is another one of those sort of moddy type songs. Really, really good album, and as I say, the last of those concept albums. Okay, at number 18 is Cat Stevens and Numbers, a very underrated album, and I think it failed the chart. But there's very, very melodic songs on this. Whistle Star opens, and it's more or less an instrumental. Novin's Nightmare is an absolutely beautiful song. Home is a gorgeous piano ballad, and Land of Free, Love and Goodbye has got stunning backing vocals, female backing vocals. It's just beautiful. Ban Apple Gas was a single, and it's alright. It's a bit of fun, that's about it. But a very, very strong album which doesn't get the credit it deserves, so that's my number 18, and it's Cat Stevens and Numbers. My number 17 is probably my least favourite T-Rex album, but it's still good enough to get number 17, and it's Bowl and Zip Gun. This is a pretty good album, but this could have been so much better. There's some outtakes that could have been on this which would have really, really enhanced it, like Lock Into Your Love and Sanctified, to name but 2. Light of Love was a single off this, which I thought was a bit lightweight, but it's really grown on me. I actually really like it now. Zip Gun Boogie, I think, is a really good riff-based song. It sort of paved the way a little bit lyrically to New York City, which was actually the next single. Solid Baby is an excellent track. Precious Star is dreadful. It really is. It's the nadir of Bowen's career for me. I just don't like it. Total of My Love's quite bluesy, but you get tracks like Till Dawn and Things Sink, and I think they're just up there with some of his best. It's a pretty good album. Now, this came out in 1974 as Light of Love in America, but it had 3 tracks from Zinc Alloy on it. This one here has got a couple of new songs, Golden Belt being one, and I think the other one is I Really Love You Babe. I think so, and yeah. And they're pretty good as well. They're slightly different sounds, so you know that this really is a 74 album, but it wasn't released here until February in 75, and I guess my number 17. Right, number 16, you probably think this is far too low, but if I did this 5 or 6 years ago, it wouldn't even be in the top 20, and it's Led Zeppelin and Physical Graffiti. I have to be in the mood for Led Zeppelin. I really do enjoy them, but I can't play them all the time. And the tracks I really like off this are like Houses of the Holy. Why was that not on Houses of the Holy? I do not know why. Custard Pie, the opener's a really good one. In the Light's good. Kashmir, I've got used to it. I used to not like it at all. And then In My Time of Dying is one of those really long bluesy numbers, which is not for me, but I really do like it. It's a pretty good track. I like this album, but as I say, it's not my favourite Zeppelin album. That is Houses of the Holy, but it's still pretty good, and whenever I'm in the mood for it, it's excellent. So that gets my number 16. And number 15, and I did a ranking of this band recently, and it is The Who by Numbers, and this is pretty good. This is one of their best of the 70s, if not the best of the 70s. In fact, it is my favourite one of theirs of the 70s. Squeezebox is a great single. However much I booze, I think it's got a really good funky riff to it. It works so well. Dreaming from the Waste is pretty good. Imagine a Man's beautiful song. Success Story I think is like a glam stomper. I think it's really excellent. Blue, Red and Grey has got that sort of Brian May Good Company feel about it, which I think is excellent as well. In a Hand or a Face is good. How Many Friends, gorgeous. It's more poppy, it's slightly more acoustic, and it's the Who that I like. Apart from the 60s, this is my favourite Who album, so that gets my number 15. Number 14, and it is the Electric Light Orchestra and Face the Music. And yeah, this is whenever they started becoming really big in America. 2 singles off this, Evil Woman, great song, and Strange Magic, which is a great song. In fact, there's a 3rd single, Night Rider, which actually got a Top of the Pops performance, and it still didn't chart, and it's probably one of my least favourite on this. Fire on High is very critically acclaimed opener. It's an instrumental. I like it, but it's never been up there with me. But I think side 2 of this is perfect. Like Poker is a really good rocker. Then we get Strange Magic. Down Home Town, which many regard as the worst. It's like a country hoedown type song, and I love it. And then absolutely gorgeous One Summer Dream at the end. It's a really strong album, and that gets my number 14. At number 13, and we have Status Quo and On the Level. Yeah, this is the one with the UK #1 hit Down Down on it. It was the only single released, but there's not a bad song off this. Even the Bye Bye Johnny, the Chuck Berry song, I think works really well. But tracks that I really love, I love What to Do, the Rossi Young song. I think it's Francis Rossi at his catchy best. Little Lady's a great opener by Rick Parfitt. Over and Done is a fantastic Alan Lancaster song. I Saw the Light, another Rossi song, which is really, really good and catchy. Broken Man is another good one. Where Am I, a good Parfitt song. It's a very, very strong album, and it's up there with Quo's best. And Down Down is just an absolute classic. So Status Quo on the Level, number 13. At number 12, I have Albert Hammond's 99 Miles from LA, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful album. And this has got the title track, which Art Garfunkel sang on his Breakaway album, which was also released this year but failed to make my top 20. Down by the River is a rework of the track from his It Only Rains in Southern California album. I like the both of them, although I think I prefer the original. But there's tracks on this that are some of his best ever. For example, Somebody's Happiness, I absolutely love it. It's got the horns in it, and it is so 1975, but I think it's brilliant, and I love this original version of To All the Girls I've Loved Before, and it's almost like got a very festive feel near the end. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Other great tracks are These Are the Good Old Days, Rivers Are for Boats, which he re-recorded again as well. Give It Away, The Face, Not the Image, all really strong songs, and this gets my number 12. Okay, number 11, and we have Fleetwood Mac and their 75 album, self-titled, and the first one with Lindsay and Stevie in it. There's the two Lindsay Buckingham songs off this, Monday Morning and I'm So Afraid, are absolutely brilliant. Monday Morning is a fantastic opener. Now Blue Letter, which he sings, which is written by somebody Curtis, you think it's a Lindsay song, it's not, but it is absolutely brilliant as well. And you get Stevie's Rhiannon, love it to bits. Crystal by Stevie, which was originally on the Buckingham Nicks album. I think I prefer that version to this one. Say You Love Me, a great Christy McVie song, and they sort of chopped and changed it a little bit for the single release, which is every bit as good, if not better. Landslide is the one that everyone talks about. It's the acoustic Stevie Nicks song, which again is a wonderful track. And then you get Warm Ways and Over My Head, the two Christy McVie tracks, which are really, really good. The only one I'm not overly keen on is Sugar Daddy by Christine, but it's a very, very strong album, and it gets my number 11. Okay, number 10, and we have Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Now really there's about 4 tracks off this. Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 to 5, fantastic. But do you really need Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 6 to 9? I don't think so. I would have liked a different song, but then the other 3 tracks are great. Welcome to the Machine is the weakest for me of them all, but Have a Cigar, brilliant. But why did they let, is it Roy Harper sing that? Why not Dave Gilmour or even Roger Waters himself? And Wish You Were Here is an absolutely classic track as well. It is a brilliant album, but the highlight is of course Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 to 5. So excellent album and a great follow-up to Dark Side of the Moon. At number 9 we have Paul Simon's Still Crazy After All These Years, and this is the one with the US number 1 hit, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, although it only got to about 20 something in the UK. You do get My Little Town with Art Garfunkel, and it's my favourite track off this, and it also featured on Art's Breakaway album, which was released more or less around the same time. The title track, Still Crazy, is absolutely beautiful. I Do It For Your Love's a really nice song. Other great deep cut tracks are Some Folks' Lives Roll Easy, which I love, and Silent Eyes is absolutely beautiful, as is Night Game, which is very, very stripped back. This is not an acoustic Paul Simon album like There Goes Rhymin' Simon. There is more electric piano etc. on it, but it's still a beautiful listen, and it gets my number 9. At number 8, and we have Mike Oldfield and Omadon, and this is the follow-up to Hergest Ridge, which is another great album. This is, I find it very, very difficult to describe Mike Oldfield albums. I just either like them or I'm not that keen on them. But some of this music is absolutely beautiful. There is a little bit of Irish music in here as well. There's some little catchy melodies too, and then the On Horseback at the end, I think. Very English folk type music, which I think is really great. But those first 3 Mike Oldfield albums of the 70s I think are wonderful, and this is as good as Tubular Bells and Hergest Ridge. It's just a really good listen. And I do like Omadon 2, or Return to Omadon as they called it, from 2016. Nothing like this at all. Little bits and pieces hark back to this, but I think for me Omadon 2 is actually called Amarok, but that's just the way I think. But this is a very, very strong album, and it gets my number 8. Now number 7 is an album I have to be in the mood for, and if I am in the mood for it, it would probably be higher. At the moment I'm not, and it's Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. And some of these songs are just some of the best he's ever written, like Tangled Up in Blues, fantastic opener. I know a lot of people don't like Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, but it's one of my all-time favourite Dylan songs. Absolutely love it. I love the little acoustic Buckets of Rain. Idiot Wind, again, is one of the best ones he's ever written, and Meet Me in the Morning's excellent. Shelter from the Storm, and If You See Her, Say Hello. Absolutely great stuff, but you have to be in the mood for it, and it gets my number 7. And number 6 for me, and it is the Bee Gees and Main Course. Yes, this is the start of their R&B or disco era, but this album is a mixture of a lot of different styles of old Bee Gees, almost country type Bee Gees, ballads, plus that new R&B sound. Jive Talkin', which is the big one off this, was actually sent to radio stations without the name Bee Gees on it because they didn't think it would get played. It did get played, then they found out it was the Bee Gees, and that's what really started the Bee Gees' second wave. And boy, was it a second wave. They took America by storm. They really overtook Elton John, or took over from Elton John as the #1 act. So Jive Talkin's brilliant. Nights on Broadway is absolutely fantastic, as is Fanny Be Tender With My Love. But you get things like Come On Over. Olivia Newton-John covered that, and it's a wee country song, and it's beautiful. Country Lanes and All This Making Love are just normal, almost pop country type songs, completely different to Jive Talkin'. Baby As You Turn Away is a good track. Wind of Change is a little bit more R&B than, say, Come On Over. Edge of the Universe is another great track. I just like the variety in this. I think it's a really, really strong album, and it gets my number 6. Okay, number 5, and no surprise, but it's ABBA's third album, and this has really gone up my estimations. Now, I love all the ABBA albums, every single one of them, but this one is actually getting higher and higher with me. There is 4 fantastic singles off this. The very glam rocky but brilliant So Long. Then you get the I Do, I Do, I Do, I Do, I Do, which I absolutely love with the saxophone on it. It's a brilliant track. SOS is a perfect pop song, and of course Mamma Mia, #1 hit. But you also get things like Intermezzo #1. It's an instrumental. It's almost a little bit proggy in a way. It's veering towards classical as well. It's just fantastic. And I've Been Waiting for You is a wonderful, wonderful ballad. Bang a Boomerang is catchiness to the nth degree. I love it, and the video for it is fantastic as well. And Rock Me is a decent enough track, which was a pretty big hit in Australia as well. So ABBA, the third album, it's just magnificent, and it gets my number 5. Okay, number 4 is Elton John's Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. And yeah, this is one of his best. It's absolutely magnificent. The hit single off this was Someone Saved My Life Tonight, which didn't do too well over here. It's nearly 7 minutes long, but it's an absolutely fantastic track. The title track off this has got a little bit of a country feel to it, but it's brilliant. Tower of Babel, I think, is one of the catchiest things he's ever done. You get Better Off Dead, another catchy track, but it's a little bit more upbeat. We All Fall in Love Sometimes is a beautiful ballad, and then it goes into Curtains at the end, which has got a bit of a Beach Boys vibe to it, but it's wonderful. The vocals and the harmonies are brilliant. It's an absolutely brilliant album, and I didn't even mention things like When the Whistle Blows, which is another great one, and Bitter Fingers, another great song. Not a bad track off this, and it gets my number 4. Now, whenever I did my quick rundown at the very start of my channel, I had this at number 1. It's now gone down to number 3, but that doesn't say anything because there's very little between these top 3 albums, or the top 5 albums, and it's Sparks, Indiscreet, and it's still my favourite Sparks album. And this has got so many different styles of music in it. The variety is unbelievable. Getting the Swing is like something from the 1920s. Hospitality on Parade, whenever you hear that, you want to get up and start marching. It's that good. Happy Hunting Ground and In the Future are almost like proto-punk type songs, which are great. Tits is a fantastic track, even though it's T*TS. Pineapple is one of Russell's songs, which is pretty good. The Lady Is Lingering is a great track as well. Under the Table with Her is just Russell singing with a violin or an orchestra accompaniment, which is brilliant as well. In the Future, I think I mentioned Looks is another one of those almost 20s type songs, and it was a top 30 single over here. Miss the Start, Miss the End. Really strong album, and it gets my number 3. And my number 2 is from Queen, and is A Night at the Opera. This is fantastic. Death in Two Legs going into Lazy on a Sunday Afternoon, absolutely brilliant. I'm in Love with My Car, which I always thought was the weakest. It just works so well on here, but I love it. You're My Best Friend, fantastic pop single going into 39, which was its B-side, and it's my favourite Brian May track. Sweet Lady, I think, is a good riff song, but it probably is the weakest song. And then you get Seaside Rendezvous, which is one of those 1920s Freddie Mercury tracks. The Prophet song is the proggiest of the lot, and it is very good. Maybe it goes on a little bit with the vocal part in the middle, but still it's very good. Love of My Life is a wonderful ballad. Good Company is like a George Formby type song, and then you get Bohemian Rhapsody, and it's perfect. It's a perfect song. God Save the Queen finishes it. So Night at the Opera, my number 2. Which means my number 1 album from 1975, and it's Young Americans by David Bowie, and this is 8 songs of brilliance. This could have been so much better though. This should have been a double album, because he had 4 completed extra tracks that could have gone on this as well to make it 12, plus there was at least 2 work in progress tracks which would have made it 14, and you could have had a double album. This has the 2 hit singles, the title track and Fame. Right is probably my favourite track off this. The vocal delivery and the interaction with the other backing vocalists is unbelievably good. Fascination is a really catchy track. Couple of beautiful ballads like Win and Can You Hear Me. Then the very soulful and almost gospel-y Somebody Up There Likes Me. Now the track Across the Universe I absolutely love it. It's nothing like the Beatles version, but it's so soulful, it's almost like a different song, and I think it's brilliant. And I mentioned that the extra songs that had already been finished, like It's Gonna Be Me, would probably have been my favourite track off this if it had been on. Who Can I Be Now is another excellent song, and then the 7-minute long John I'm Only Dancing Again. Those were all finished, as was After Today, which got on the Sound and Vision box set. So 4 tracks. The ones that called Shilling the Rubes and I Am Laser hadn't been finished, but you hear snippets of them on YouTube and they're brilliant as well. This could have been a double album, and it would have been the best double album ever in my opinion, but not to be. But it's still my number 1 album of 1975, and it's in my top 3 David Bowie albums, Young Americans. Okay, that went on a wee bit, so maybe a top 30 is too much for some of the years, but that was my top 20. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to have another video quite soon. All the best now. Bye bye.